Live from Toronto to the world.
Josh!
This is Josh Holiday Live. Talk that rocks.
The public needs to be informed.
Josh might surprise us.
Got an opinion? Dial 647-6YO-JOSH.
When you hear him, you're like, what?
Josh Holiday Live starts now.
Hello, live Friday, long weekend. It is the 19th of May in this year of 2023. We were off last week. Brett is here.
Good afternoon, Canada.
And it's a long weekend there too, but it's a different one, isn't it? What is it? What is it called there?
Unless you're going to go for the new moon or something, taking Friday off.
Oh wait, it's not a holiday there?
That's next weekend.
Oh, okay. Because
Memorial Day will be the 29th.
All right, because we have May 2-4 weekend. They call it it's the May 24th Victoria Day weekend, which is I guess a whole British royalty thing. And we've had it forever, but it's a very Canadian thing to call it. May 2-4, right? Because another nickname for a case of beers is a 2-4. We're going to go to the store and get ourselves a 2-4.
Okay.
So
are there 8 beers in a case?
No, 24.
Okay, better.
2-4. And there used to not be a holiday long weekend at the beginning of August, and then within the last few years they added one. So now, basically every month during the warm season, we have a long weekend. So Canada Day, July 1st.
Yes, we should all be getting the same deal as the French folks, the same amount of vacation and retirement. That should be the standard for the world.
6 weeks, I think, is France-ish.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the amount. I've heard that it's just people who deal with international consortiums over in Europe. It's like, hey, look, the amount of holidays they take would astonish you. Yeah,
no, it's amazing, and it, especially if you put it up against the U.S., where a lot of people don't really get time off, especially if you're not you're not like a salaried employee. It's kind of your own time, doesn't get paid. You're
correct.
You're on your own, and you have to work. And of course, now they're striking in France because they're changing the retirement age by a little bit.
Yes, and the way the retirement age was changed is also part of that protest, which was done apparently via executive, chicanery
decision. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't done through a actual constitutional process is the problem. Yeah. But anyway, but I digress.
But yeah, Europe, I would much rather be living by the work standards of Europe than North America.
We should all have that.
Yeah. A lot of people just August is kind of everything closes up in Europe for almost all of August.
Yeah. Apparently you get to take the hotter months off,
which is great. Why not? Because here in northern climes, there's no sense taking time off in the winter. You might as well just get your stuff done while you're forced to be inside.
Right.
And then when you can finally come out of the house and do things that you want to do, it's holiday time. Speaking of holidays and segues, and my name, it's all three coming together in one big explosion. We were not on the air last week. I was in Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. It's kind of been my happy travel place for a bunch of years now. It's been my go-to when getting out of the country. I've been there. This would have been my 4th time since 2017, and this time, 6 years later, I returned to the first little town I went to when I went in 2017. It's called Nosara on the Pacific coast, and it's the first time I went because someone I play hockey with, his niece runs a restaurant there, a popular restaurant, and so he gave me advice, and I went there. And this town is kind of a yoga surf town with quite a bit of expats. You're Australians, you're British, you're German. Like it's a kind of a multicultural.
Sounds great. I like a yoga surf town. I'm sure.
Although I really don't do either of those things, I just like the idea that there's decent food and it's kind of a fun little community. But I will say this: in the 6 years since I went there, it has changed in huge ways. So when I was there in 2017, I would kind of trip around on an ATV, go up in the mountains and stuff, and you would see scattered in the mountain roads, you'd see these kind of giant estates or compounds or giant houses, but they weren't everywhere. They were kind of hidden away. So 6 years later, pretty much everywhere you drive in Nosara, there are these giant manses, these mansions and compounds. And I asked one of the local people, I said, what happened? And I guess the pandemic was the big part of it. A lot of like millionaire class people, billionaire people decided, oh, well, I'm working remotely. I'm just going to move to Nosara and build a giant house. And
I mean, it's like, is it a process of gentrification?
Yeah, oh, for sure it is.
Yeah.
That I was kind of disappointed because I liked it before when it was less known. I guess it's the same thing with music where your favorite band gets discovered. Although,
I mean, there's just so much money floating around in abstract things. People just now they just like go back to tangible.
Yeah. Well, now I have to find somewhere less discovered. But I do I did like it still. I usually I'll just get a place and rent an ATV for the week and like go up into the mountains and into the jungles and the waters. And I went searching because I didn't see any last time I was there. I have a fascination with any kind of creature that can kill a human. So crocodiles, there are in Costa Rica. And so I tried to go to a place where there was an attack to see if I could see any or get close, but I was unsuccessful.
To get close to crocodiles or attacks?
Oh, crocodiles. With the fear, I think I have like maybe some sort of weird thing where I like to put myself in a position where there's a tiny chance that there might something dangerous might happen. But I didn't even see any, like even them lying on the banks or anything. So that didn't happen. Didn't see any snakes. Last time I was there on an ATV tour, we came up and this man had just killed 2 snakes near his farm. One was like a python type, and then one was a venomous type, and he had them both kind of holding them up, and it was
just on the roadside as you drove by. Yeah, like he was showing you his trophies.
Yeah, I would. I would. There's a lot of dogs there. I would be wary of having a dog there. But surf yoga town. So there are a lot of your flaky yoga types. There's one giant.
You developed this theory.
This is it's yoga town, right? There's this one giant, and then you have stereotypical surfer types too. But there's one giant hotel.
I'm hoping the surfers are more flaky than the yoga people, but please continue.
There's probably a tie. So there's a giant yoga hotel that's all about the yoga, and I didn't stay there, but I do enjoy. They have a smoothie bar, and I enjoy sitting on their little patio by the pool without having to actually be a guest there. And there's a lot of lovely yoga ladies kind of hanging out. But you also overhear all kinds of flaky conversations about different types of yoga, and she does this psychedelic blah, she does massage. I like psychedelics, and I was surprised that I went into a kind of like an apothecary, but not like an old school one, more of like a hey,
it's kitsch.
This is kitschy, this is trendy.
Please, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they had all the different like herbs and spices, and they had a lion's mane mushroom. I said, "Oh, do you have psilocybin?" And she's like, "Yeah, just right over here." So you could actually buy magic mushrooms just right in that little store.
Oh, fantastic!
Well, I didn't do it.
Everyone should be so lucky. You don't have a sitter all the time, though, right?
A what now?
You gotta have somebody to hang out with. You can't just mushroom alone.
You can.
Well,
But in a country like that, it's probably
like a microdose. I'm saying if you really
you can
gotta go have a weekend. You need a friend.
Yeah, well, it's probably better that way, and especially in a foreign country. You probably want someone to babysit. The one thing I do love about it is pretty much every restaurant you go to has smoothies, but there's also a simpler thing. If you go to just the basic Costa Rican little sodas, which are just, local little restaurants, no frills, you can get these fruit drinks where it's just basically ice and fruit and water, and they mix it up, and it's amazing. It's like fresh fruit. I think because it's so abundant there that you can eat so much fruit. And so I half my day is spent stopping at smoothie bars, getting like coffee smoothies, smoothies. Smoothies.
This is a real kind of a sugar binge for you then, right?
Well, but you don't feel as guilty, because even when I get those little smoothies, I say no added sugar to the ones
the fruit turned into a sugar porridge.
Yeah, pretty much
for you to drink.
So I did go and get a massage at this.
Congratulations!
Yeah, I love body scrub massage. I love that stuff. But I was going into it wasn't a huge spa. I think they just had like two rooms at this place, and at the reception desk as I came in, there's this probably like 45-year-old kind of surfy guy, and he's chatting with the receptionist, and he's saying, "Oh, is she here or whatever?" And I thought, "Oh, he's trying to make an appointment," but he's like, "Oh, what's her name again? Oh yeah, is she here?" And she's like, "No, she doesn't. She's not here today." And he's like, "Oh, is she here tomorrow?" And she said, "No." And she may be at work Mondays, because he said, I just want to give this to her. And he had like a little bottle. It looked almost like an oil or perfume. It was like glass bottle, black lid. And I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And then she said, "Oh, I can take it for you." He's like, "No, I want to give it to her." And then on the way out the door, he's like, "Oh, what's her name again?" So I think what I deduced from this is that this guy got a massage from this woman who I heard the name Mariella, and he had, I guess, come back to try and give her whatever this was, like this perfume or oil, and was really like, "No, I need to see her in person." And this
is a massage oil scenario,
but he couldn't.
And he's also, smitten with her, right?
Well, the weirdest thing was he kept having to ask her name again. Like, if you really like cared, you would ask the name. So
you would think that he would have, committed that to memory, or so. Is it? Or you think he's some more sinister?
No, I think it's just a case of, when guys will go to strip clubs, not me, and they will decide that, "Oh my God, this stripper actually likes me. She's into me."
I mean, that probably happens one time in 10,000.
There's guys though who will go in there and assume that because the stripper is giving him attention and talking to him, that she's actually into him. Now, I get it a little bit with the massage, because it's such an intimate thing. You're in the room with this person, they're touching your body, so you maybe think, "Oh wow, they're touching me in very intimate way." No, I don't mean like in a sexy way, but they're it's a very intimate experience.
Deconstruct your massage experience.
You're naked and they're so my assumption is this guy assumed that
professionalism in massage. That's why you just like, "No, here's a tip," and you move on, right? I mean,
yeah, but that's why I think this guy. I don't know if maybe he hasn't had massages, but I think maybe he was in that same mindset of like,
of course,
the way she touched me, I think she really likes me. She was so kind.
I mean, that's hey, who knows?
But I wish part of me was like, well, she must give a really good massage.
All right.
No, I don't mean like that.
Here we go. All right.
No, I don't mean like that. I mean that, well, if this guy was so
SAUGA960,
if this guy was so enamored with this, it was at a fancy hotel, so it wasn't, but just the fact that he was so enamored with his massage, I was like, "Oh, I wonder if it's a good massage." But nevertheless, that didn't happen. Now I don't know a lot of travel hacks. I know that if I need the darkness in my room, I use those hangers with the clips on them to hold the curtain closed. Yeah. This time around, there's a small airplane flight from Nassau, which is that small town, half-hour flight to Liberia, which is one of the bigger airports. It's only a half-hour flight, but it was early in the morning, and then my flight wasn't until the afternoon, so there's 5 or 6 hours layover. And I decided I want to hang out in the airport for 5 hours with their expensive food and crowding and stuff. So I went outside, and I knew there was a hotel basically right across the street. It's a bit of a drive, but they have a free shuttle. So I waited for the free shuttle to the hotel, went to the hotel, stayed there in their lounge restaurant, had breakfast, had a continental plus buffet for $10, and hung out there, charged my devices, in view of a pool. And I'm glad I did, because I ended up having lunch at the airport, had a slice of pizza and this little drink, this aloe drink, and it was $26.
Ouch.
Airport pricing.
That's even worse than a U.S. airport.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. I was incredulous. I was like, are you serious? I think the look on her face suggested that she was used to people having feelings of like, oh my God, this is crazy expensive.
But the hotel was a good call, though. I like that strategy.
It worked out okay. And then because the other thing was the taxi drivers, when I said, oh, I'm just going to go to the Hilton, they go, we'll take you there now, $10. Or you can wait for the shuttle. It might be another 15 minutes. I'm like, well, I'll take the shuttle. So save some money. Although I gave a good tip to the shuttle guy. And the other thing that I was dreading was I don't want to ever, my fear is having to poop on an airplane or in an airport. I just, especially if you're all clogged up. So I did have to do my thing, and I did it in the luxurious hotel bathroom.
Well, see, good for you on a throne.
But one thing that I think they had in this bathroom that I think all bathrooms should have, instead of stall sides coming down between the two stalls, there was an actual wall there. They still had stall front, but there was a wall there, so you don't see other people's feet or kind of like there's no interaction there.
It's a little more private.
Yeah, so I like that. But so that was Costa Rica. It was. Good times.
Vita, friend. It sounds delightful.
Well, now it's back here. Plants are blooming. Everything's warm. It feels like
it was different when you got back, huh?
Well, before I left, it was already starting to get warm. Ideally, it would have been like freezing and then leave for a week and it's tropical when you get back. But that didn't happen. I did when I was down there. The first Leafs playoff game that happened while I was down there. I wasn't able to watch the whole thing. It was the night I arrived, but I saw the end. And then I saw one full game just watching on my iPad in the hotel. And the Leafs basically crapped the bed, as they always do. I don't want to get too much into it because people here know this story. It's been 19 years. Really? Yeah. Everyone was all excited because they got through the first round, which they hadn't done for 19 years. But they scraped through against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They probably shouldn't have won. They didn't really have a lot of good games in that series. And then they were almost swept by the Florida Panthers, who creeped into the playoffs. And the good thing is change is afoot, because my fear was, they got through that first round. Now they're just going to keep everything the same. But the knives are out here. Everyone's calling for changes. There's what they call the core four, these 4 stars who don't seem to hate losing. So now they're talking about big changes. And today, which is a huge surprise, the GM of the team for the last 5 or 6 years, he's not coming back. He didn't have a contract. I think they were in wait and see mode. So coming into the season, this was the last year of his contract. And I think part of it depended on the playoffs. But I think they kind of wanted him back, and there was a sense that he would come back knowing that, okay, he knows now that he's got to shuffle things up and make some changes and maybe change the coach. But what I heard is maybe he was making a few too many sort of demands for power wise and what the situation would be for him, and maybe his heart wasn't fully in it. Anyway, as of like this afternoon, huge news here. It's almost bigger than, say, the prime minister being impeached. The GM of the Leafs is out. It's like that's a huge Toronto thing, and
Yeah, I can see that.
And your team is still alive.
You got me involved, and now I have watched playoff hockey when it is so gripping.
Well, it
is very stressful.
And now this actually should be a good series. The Golden Knights versus the Stars should be a good.
Yeah,
one.
the Dallas Stars were. I mean, in watching the differences between the Wild and the Kraken. Yeah. My goodness, the Kraken are a crafty team that managed to take a lot of shots.
Yeah.
And the Stars always led in shots, I think, against the Wild. And so like that was a much different experience watching another team just spoil every potential offensive opportunity, just gets thwarted.
Smother them.
Many steals and broken up plays. It's just wow. It is. I see the appeal now. So they're on tonight. We're watching.
Do it.
I'm wearing green.
All right. I think a lot of it changes in the playoffs where a lot of the goals aren't the fancy pants kind of goals where it's like dingle dangle do. It's just people go stand in front of the net and cause traffic, and it's much more kind of chaotic way of scoring goals. And the other thing that I absolutely love about NHL playoff hockey is overtime in the playoffs. Like during the regular season, there was a time where you could have a tie game and it would just end there, and then the league added 5 minutes overtime and then a shootout, and then they finally did it where it was 5 minutes of 3-on-3 overtime and a shootout. And there's the 3-on-3 overtime is always exciting. This is the regular season, and they should extend that, but we'll see. But the overtime in the playoffs is you just keep playing until someone wins,
right?
And that however long it takes, and sometimes it takes a long time. So there was a game last night that lasted about 6 hours. So a typical hockey game is about you go to the arena, you're there for maybe 2.5 hours. So this was a full, I think we went into the fourth overtime, and it was the goal was scored near the end of the fourth overtime. So say you went
game for it.
So you went to the hockey game at 7 p.m. The game is still going on at 1 a.m. And so they show people in the crowd so they have intermission. So there's 20-minute period, 17-minute intermission, and so on. They show people in the crowd in that last intermission. Yeah, kind of sleeping, waiting for the next period to happen. But it's exciting. The other thing I love about playoff hockey is game 7 in series overtimes, because basically it goes to overtime and whoever scores, basically you win that series. So it's like just that instantaneous excitement. But I love it. It's fun to watch.
All right, you can watch the Stars now.
Yeah, I'll have to pick the Stars as my team. The only problem with that is it's West Coast games, and
it's brutal. But I stay up for them out of I'm just conditioned to it.
Okay, well, for example, so say that was a West Coast game for us. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, you would have to stay up to watch the end of that game. Yeah, no, get your I sort of DVR'd the Florida one last night because I just noticed it was going into the second overtime, and I went to bed, and then this morning while kind of reading the news and stuff, I had it on in the background to see the excitement. But yeah, I watched a documentary on the plane that had been on my list for a while. It has a Canadian connection, and it kind of explains the phrase, "You don't F with cats."
You all know that thing you use to send text. It works for actual mouth talking.
Josh stuff, more Josh stuff.
Get in on the conversation. Punch 647-6YO-JOSH to be heard. Talk that rocks. Josh Holiday live.
Yes, live Friday afternoon of a Canadian long weekend. If you're listening in other parts of the world, maybe not a long weekend, but you can still celebrate if you choose. I watched on the airplane documentary, 3-part documentary called Don't F with Cats.
All right.
And I guess I'll try and summarize it very quickly, but there was a video that appeared online of a dude who you couldn't really see his face, but he took 2 kittens and he put them in a vacuum seal type bag, and then he put the vacuum hose and he basically, in this video, like killed the cats.
Gosh, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and so this got people fired up. It was a little bit in the early days of Facebook, probably like 2010.
Yeah, I never experienced this. Thank goodness.
No. Well, and then they were trying to figure out, like, because it got people angry, and the lady was saying, well, the first rule of the internet is you don't F with cats. And so there's a Facebook group that got all started up to try to figure out who this a-hole is. And then there's he posted another video where he had a kitten and it basically drowned it. Ugh. And then there's a third one where he had a kitten and had this giant albino python, and basically,
dude,
yeah, okay, so that's like it's an insane guy, a creepy guy. So these people scattered all over the internet on Facebook are trying to use clues like, the room that he's in, look at the objects of the outlets of certain shapes. So they're internet sleuths, and they're trying to figure out all these things, and they end up figuring out who this guy is.
Wow.
And then they have to try and track him down, and it's this creepy wannabe model guy who and then it feels like he also goes on the main forum that they're on and kind of tries to tease them or lead them on with breadcrumbs. So it's this kind of cat and mouse game, and some of the
how bad he wants the attention. And
he's really into film stuff. So they're worried that it's going to escalate, and they get in touch with they figure out that he's in Canada, and they get in touch with police here, and the police aren't really that receptive because they were saying he's going to escalate to the next. It's going to be a human next, and finally.
They couldn't get him animated about suffocating cats and whatnot.
Yeah, the police were sort of like, well, we don't know where it's actually happening. It's it's on the internet, so it's not really our jurisdiction. We don't have
frustrated model. That's something.
Yeah, just a all around odd cat. So didn't intend that pun at all. So they track him around, and eventually what happens is a video appears where he is stabbing someone with an ice pick and then decapitating them and taking their hands off.
And he's escalating.
Yeah, and this is in Montreal, and then all these people are going crazy because like we effing told you that this guy is going to that's going to be the next step for him. And so they find this luggage out back stinking behind this house in Montreal.
I don't even how this content. How many hours of this did you consume on this plane? 3 hours. Jeez, man.
But then they're sort of trying to help the police because he goes kind of missing, and there's this So it was interesting. I'd sort of put it aside for quite a while because I was like, I don't know. Because the other thing he did was he mailed feet to the 2 different political parties here in Canada. Two of the big
feet to the political parties.
Yeah, and
people feet.
Yeah, it's there's other characters too, like his mom is
he's not mailing kitty feet.
His mom is heavily in denial, and both he and she end up coming with, well, this Manny guy who was abusing him and making him do all these things. And then it turns out Manny does not exist, but Manny is a character from Fatal Attraction. And so he tries to recreate these moves. So it's kind of, there's a lot of interesting things to it. Like he has a poster behind him in the killing scene that has Casablanca on it. And the internet sleuths are like, Casablanca, why? Let's watch it for clues. And then it says, all right, we'll always have Paris. And indeed, he ends up fleeing to Paris. And so it feels like he's trying to play that Catch Me If You Can type game as well.
Well, yeah, he's flirting with being caught.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's too bad. I'm not animated by true crime, but you know.
Well, it was just like it was. Yeah,
and it's sadistic. You're watching content that's harming your soul.
A little bit. Yeah. I don't know why I watch that stuff. Okay. Well, forget cats. There's a animal rescue in Albuquerque, and they put up basically a test that people can use to determine whether someone's worthwhile to continue to be associated with. It's called 2 Beers and a Puppy, and it's a test that this person developed while working on a magazine story. And the test is, in order to find out how you actually feel about someone, ask yourself, A, would I have 2 beers with this person? And B, would I allow this person to look after my puppy over a weekend? It says some people are no and no. You got to avoid those people. Some are yes and no. You can cautiously trust them. Some people are no and yes. These people are fun, but they make the world a better place for puppies, especially. And then some people yes and yes, and those are the best people. Yeah, so there you go. I would let you look after my dog over a weekend, and I'd have two.
I would actually try to get out of it because the puppy's that can be a handful.
Well, I don't know if it's dog or puppy. Let's see.
It said puppy, and
it did say puppy. Yeah. Puppies can be a pain in the ass, but trusting someone with your dog basically is like trusting someone with your child, and so that's that.
Even more work.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's true. Yeah, they have no ability.
2 beers, 1 puppy, 0 babies.
Yeah,
we're not trying to. You know what I mean?
I hear you. Well,
3, 2, 1.
Have you? I know you kind of are living the rural lifestyle, and I'm basically living the urban lifestyle in a condo.
Right.
Do you chat with your neighbors on the regular?
Never.
Really? But you know them though, yeah?
Yeah.
But you just don't
text if the dog's out front or something, stuff like that.
So kind of a hands-off thing.
It's just like, okay, I might try to catch my neighbor at the end of the driveway at some point just to shoot the breeze with him, but I got to catch him at the end of his driveway too. Yeah. Well,
it's not when we say you're kind of in a rural location, it's not like your house is abutted next to another house where you're just over the fence. It's actually like some space between.
There's a little space, yeah.
Yeah. According to a poll, most adults haven't spoken to their neighbors in 3 weeks. Although it doesn't stop people from bashing their neighbors on social media.
Who's doing that?
Yeah. Did this survey in the UK, 2,000 adults. 56% of those in local online groups encounter sniping and mudslinging.
Okay, I have seen that in like
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll get
there's
a citywide group.
There's that. Yeah, there's that one. Now I'm going to forget what it's called. Not neighborhoods, but it's basically looking here because I got a notification from. I almost stopped following it, but basically it's people chatting in their neighborhoods. It's kind of like an alternative to Facebook, but like specific neighborhoods. But the thing about it is, it seems to attract and it's mostly like older, get off my lawn type people,
or just people with time on their hands.
Yeah, so you get a lot of like just oddball, like, oh, I can't believe this person put their garbage in here.
And then I think, I think that at a certain level, like there's a complaining culture that exists that people like to
vent. And somewhat anonymity or not being able to sort of see the.
Well, no, I mean, but a lot of these people are doing it in their own name. If it's on Facebook, that you're easily.
Oh yeah, but it's not a face-to-face thing. Like a lot of stuff they say on there. Not. Yeah, but I almost got off of it.
Tapping on their phone while standing in front of the guy's house.
Yeah. I almost got off of that. Oh, Next Door. That's what it's called. There's even accounts on Twitter and stuff that are best of Next Door because it's all over North America, and there's always like cranks who are on there. I almost got off, but I get notifications on my email where it's just the headlines, and I'm like, oh, I have to see this. This is just too crazy for words. Right. What are the best game shows of all time? You may have your opinions. I know I have mine, and there's a subgenre of great Canadian game shows that are great because of their kitsch value. We will tell you what people said were the best ones in just a second.
Something bugging you? Need a vent?
Where the is Josh?
This is your unfiltered megaphone.
When you hear him, you're like, what?
Dial 647-6-YO-JOSH now to be heard. Talk that rocks. Josh Holiday live.
Yes, we are alive, and this, Brett, you will not know. You might recognize that as a sample of a Quincy Jones song, but that is a Quincy Jones song sampled by a Canadian group. My definition of a bombastic jazz thing. And there was a Canadian game show in the 70s and 80s called Definition, and they used that theme. And so here we are. Yeah, Canadian. Right. So these, according to fans, are the best game shows of all time. There's a list of 5. No real surprises on here. I think a lot of it has to do with longevity. The Price is Right. Been going on since 1956. Holy mackerel.
Tracking inflation through time.
Yeah. There's a good documentary on a guy who...
I have seen this.
Yeah, he basically figures out the prices for almost everything. He kind of puts it in a flow chart, and he figures that a lot of times there's almost a rotation. Anyway, he figures out a way to game the system, and he wins big on The Price is Right. Price is Right was kind of a staple of being homesick from school because it was a daytime thing, and we would love it. And then as I got old,
I assume was it on in the late morning?
I think so.
Yeah.
The other thing I liked is as I got older, is just Bob Barker seemed like such a suave dude. Like he was all about helping animals, and he kind of had a bit of a wit to him. He did. Sure, he did. But there is that side where it's like he was apparently maybe a sexual harasser. But he did a lot of good with his whole campaign, and he was an entertaining host. So
1923, he'll be 100 in December.
It's amazing. Have you ever been in a game show audience?
No, I have no desire to do that.
I did, just because it was a childhood thing, and it wasn't so much me, but I went with a friend on a trip to California. He had never been. I had lived there before, and I think he went mostly because his grandmother watched it and he wanted to go. So I was like, yeah, I guess so. We'll go. And it's at CBS Studio Cities in California. And you're in this big line, and then they come around and you meet with, as you're going in, you meet with a producer briefly and give them a story. And I think, if you have if you're an excitable person, you're probably going to get chosen, or if you have a wacky t-shirt or something. Neither of us got chosen, but a guy in our row won a dirt bike, so that was exciting.
Hey,
and the studio looks giant on TV, but it was actually a lot smaller than you would think. Anyway, Price is Right. Number 4, Family Feud.
Yes.
Remember the classic one with Richard Dawson? Who
of course I do.
I guess a lot of these games. I mean, it's a thing of the times. What you couldn't do now what he did then with all the kissing and stuff.
Oh my God, no! It's so grotesque to watch that now. It's awful.
It has not stood the test of time.
Oh my God. But we watched it and I accepted it when I was a child, apparently, because it was not even thought about.
No, you wouldn't. It was just like, oh, he's just friendly with a
just a friendly guy. Just you're so lovely. Let me kiss you.
Let me give you a kiss.
Is there some kind of old world greeting that I just don't know about? Is it from another time that I just don't have access to? I didn't live then.
I don't think he was like.
Was it ever? There was never a consensual scenario where this was
I think
acceptable, right?
I think if you're European, you do the kiss on the cheek or whatever.
I mean, is that just what is that though? Is that a residue of the patriarchy?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. We used to have the home game, like when we were kids.
The home game of kiss hello?
No, that was Doctor. That was like 7 Minutes in Heaven or whatever.
I see. Right.
We had the Family Feud home game.
Oh yeah.
And it even had little plastic sliders where you could open up the things. What it did.
Everybody says. Yeah, that little bell.
Or
flipping over.
Yeah.
I really liked the manual flip over one.
Yes.
With the bell, it sounded like you won a prize at a state fair.
Yeah. Just that thing and they flip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before it was digital. Yeah. When it was actually like
the analog feud.
Yeah. I like a lot of that stuff. Like when we talk about movies and TV, I like practical effects more than digital effects.
Sure.
Even in game shows. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Originally a British show, and then obviously Regis Philbin, and it's still going on. Although I haven't.
Is that still hosted by Meredith Vieira in the daytime?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay.
Another show I saw they brought back was The Weakest Link. And it's Jane Lynch instead of that British lady.
I don't know. It's like it has to have this sadistic woman at the center of it.
Yeah,
apparently.
they need to be caught. Although Jane Lynch is more of like a more of a slide. It's in on the joke, and it's not quite as severe. Wheel of Fortune with the least charismatic man on in game shows, Pat Sajak.
Is that why he has had such great longevity, though?
I don't know, like he's kind of like he's got a bit of a right wing to him too. And remember when
he does, yeah.
Remember there was a time where they're like, Pat Sajak, let's give him a talk show.
He was on in late night for a little while.
Yeah, and like I don't understand the executive decision there. Here's a guy with zero personality except like, hey, how you doing?
I think there was this idea that you were the after Dick Cavett wasn't on anymore. There was a grasping after the next sort of like thoughtful talk show host.
Yeah, well, he was not the guy. Number one is not a surprise. Jeopardy still going on. Ken Jennings and Mayim Bialik are kind of splitting the duties there. I set my DVR to tape the Daily Jeopardy because I liked watching it but skipping the commercials. But then it just kept accumulating. Then I had about 120 episodes on my DVR. And then
she got 60 hours of Jeopardy.
Then Alex Trebek died, and I was like, I don't know if I can erase this now because it's like his last like however many episodes. But I realized eventually that what, it's an ongoing thing, and I might as well just watch the new ones because Canadian game shows are a whole different category. Even SCTV, remember SCTV?
Sure.
They did a parody of they did more than one. But one of the parodies was, "You've won this brand new stereo record cleaning brush." So the camera would zoom in on the stereo and then slowly zoom up to this record brush that was on the top of the stereo. The prizes were cheap. And speaking of cringe, there's another show they had where they had three kids and their mothers, and the show was called Just Like Mom, and they would ask the kids questions and then see if the mom could figure out what their kids said and vice versa. But the host of that one was with the kids. He was really like watching it in retrospect. You're like, oh my God, that is so creepy. He'd be like, what does your mommy do? And there was another show with Alex Trebek that I used to really like. It was called Pitfall. And you would basically go across this bridge with 9 different spaces, and if you got the question wrong, it was like an elevator. You would go down to the lower level, and it would take time to come back up, so the time on the clock would be burning, and your goal was to get to the end. But it was a mustachioed Alex Trebek, and back in those days, he was a little bit more flirty with the ladies and a little bit more like wink, wink.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Pitfall. I'll have to look on YouTube because
get canceled.
It was, it was sort of funny because he was like he had a bit of a playboy vibe to him, and especially when he was chatting with the ladies, a lot different than the late stage of Alex Trebek.
Do you remember when? I mean, in the 80s, Wheel of Fortune featured a shopping segment for prizes.
Oh, do you
remember that? Like
a Mad Dash where you would have to go.
No. They would have a large wheel of scenarios that turn. It's like, oh, here's the his and hers ski scenario, and it would have here's some skis and some vests and some helmets and other accessories, and here's the package to Hawaii, or here's the package to Banff, or whatever. You would get this chance to then shop. And the people's head would float through, and they'll say, "I'll take the his and hers jet skis for $900 or whatever it was." At the
I like
time.
that better.
And it took so much time.
But it's
it was like that for years.
But it's more interesting because there's actual like props and stuff rather than just numbers, right?
Yes, it just became $1. It was, I mean, yeah, there was some real items, and it became like, okay, you've got 800 left. Okay, you got 450. Okay, they had to keep shopping until they had nothing.
I like that. The other one that I used to love, the old version, the new one's too sanitized and too like nicey nice, but Let's Make a Deal with Canadian Monty Hall. That for a kid especially, watching people in outfits and then kind of corny situations where they pick behind door 1 or door number 2, and then there's a donkey behind door number 2.
Right. I never really saw that when it was on for real, but I guess I saw the revival.
Yeah, the revival one, and it's still entertaining. But I think I appreciated it more as a kid. It probably because it's
because you don't because seeing a donkey is it's a good gag for a kid.
Yeah, I suppose so. And I sometimes wondered if you've won, and then I wonder if these people legitimately won these animals, or it was just like a gag that was part of the contract. You actually didn't win this.
Oh, that you actually didn't go home with a new donkey obligation
for your suburban backyard.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
You got to take it.
You got to have this donkey. I never really, considered the implications of a donkey as a prize.
No. That
it became basically a debt burden. You left California with a worse
than you came
in life.
Yeah, there's real stakes to that game show. You either win
you
good
gotta
things,
take this donkey, brother,
or burden. And part of the
contract back with you in 6 years.
Part of the contract is you cannot use it for meat. You must keep this donkey alive. Yes. Oh my God. It's already we've reached the end of another episode.
Sure you have.
Of the show. You can always get in touch with us, 647-6-YO-JOSH, 647-696-5674. You can leave a voicemail 24/7, 365. If you go to joshholidaylive.com, you can get old episodes and all kinds of other information. You have yourself a good long weekend if you're in Canada, or if you're listening to this next weekend in the U.S. via podcast, or wherever you are, or wherever you're listening. Have just a good weekend overall, is what I'm saying.
Turn on the lights, open the shades.
The show's over, but the conversation continues. On Twitter at Josh Holiday, on the web at joshholidaylive.com, and hear missed episodes on your favorite podcatcher. Talk that rocks. Josh Holiday Live.